And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's go to Dan Gaynor joining us from the Media Research Center in Washington, D.C. Dan, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Not bad. I'm just trying to figure out, is it a good morning for William Barr, the president, and just all the craziness that continues in the House of Representatives and the media that churns it along?
Well, I mean, we have to stop talking about it just as craziness. It's a coup. It's been a coup for the entire time of the Trump presidency. When Trump jokes about getting 2 extra years because they took 2 years away pursuing this, that's what he's really referencing. You have members of the deep state, including Comey and Clapper and others, and people unnamed, work in conjunction with business and media and the Democratic Party to unseat the democratically elected president of the United States. It's not like Venezuela. We don't have people on the streets carrying guns, thank goodness, but it's still the same thing.
When we take a look at just this aggressive, assertive media coverage, the truth has died long ago, it would seem. We've gone from collusion, delusion, obstruction, function to Barr didn't do this. We're treating William Barr like he's Amazon, like he should have had the Mueller report there. It shouldn't have been redacted. Never mind the rules and regulations, and never mind accuracy in journalism.
Well, yeah, they keep changing. Remember, for more than 2 years, the American news media told us that the President of the United States was a traitor. That's what this whole collusion with Russia thing is. Let's stop dancing around the terminology. They said he's a traitor to the United States, that he was basically a creature of Putin, that he did Putin's bidding. They still say it, but I mean, that was their big push. And then first Barr and then Mueller and now back to Barr, they've all said, okay, well, it turns out this is completely untrue. You have no proof of this at all. It's just a fever dream of some lunatics who are like those crazy people you see on TV. I think I saw an NCIS episode where a guy had connected all these random dots and of data and drew some mega conspiracy. And that's what they're doing. So then when that blows up, they move immediately to obstruction because, you obstructed an investigation into the thing you didn't do. Huh?
Right.
Trump, according to all reports, gave all the, didn't do anything other than he gave all the documents they wanted, etc. Oh, but you fired Comey. Yeah, I'm legally allowed to do that. That's the Constitution set this up this way, and they don't like that.
Well, and they keep comparing apples to oranges when they talk about Ken Starr, when they talk about Richard Nixon. I mean, the independent prosecutor, which was during the Starr regime and all that, very different from the special prosecutor, and yet they blur the lines all the time. Then you have journalists saying this is worse than Nixon to people that weren't alive when Richard Nixon went through Watergate.
Well, actually, this is people who weren't alive when Nixon was alive almost reporting that what's going on is worse than Nixon to people who weren't alive when Nixon was president.
Right.
And so everything they say is wrong, but they don't care because it's never about right and wrong anymore. Journalism stopped being about facts some time ago and became about narrative. So you don't worry about reporting the facts of this building burned down. What you do is if you don't want to report that the building burned down, you find somebody who says, well, the building didn't really burn down. Oh, it's just a little bit damaged. And you go and interview that person. Well, now that's the story of record, not that the building burned down and there's nothing left except for a tiny little bit of wall.
Dan Gaynor joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580. So what do you make of the economic news as far as the jobs, the best we've had since they put a man on the moon? And yet, Trump is still a bad guy. And by the way, the idea that they say Trump and they don't say President Trump is just appalling to me.
Well, we did say Obama a lot. And I think the longer somebody's in the office, the more you get rid of the P word, just go straight to their name. We spent most of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's term calling him just FDR. Certainly we called Kennedy, Kennedy, and Nixon, Nixon. That one, there's so many other bigger fish to fry. But, this whole situation is just frustrating. And what happens, and so it bubbles over, you get, every one of us gets a little thing that bothered us for some reason. I'm just sick of them doing this. I'm sick of them bombarding us with propaganda in TV entertainment as well as news. I mean, it's just, you literally can't escape it.
I would agree. Let's go to the economic numbers. Are you surprised that they've been downplayed and, we've moved on to, well, Bernie has this, Joe Biden's unbeatable, and don't forget about Kamala.
You were talking about 1969. And, I looked it up and now I can't remember what it was, but the song that was popular back then, we're talking almost exactly 50 years ago that we had unemployment rate this low. Historically speaking, when I first started this job 15 years ago, it was widely assumed that in today's economy, 5% was the lowest unemployment could go. And then it went lower than that under Bush. And so they started saying, 4% is perfect unemployment. And now here we are at 3.6, and they keep having to revise. They told us that the economy was about to tank. That was all the news stories when Trump took office. Remember Paul Krugman talking about a global recession. Now, yes, I guarantee you we will have a recession. Guarantee you. Sooner or later, it will happen because economics is cyclical. Something will get overextended somewhere, somehow or another, the system will have to correct. But they've been trying to talk up possibility of recession all late last year, all this year, because they want it desperately to happen before the election. They're afraid that Trump's massively positive economic numbers will carry him to victory, even though the major press is trying to destroy him every second, every day.
And here we have other major economic news going on. We've got the issues with China. We've got North Korea going on. How has the press played that? To me, it's almost like, well, and I believe you guys reported on this, that President Trump, according to the media, is trying to get into a war with Iran.
Yeah, or a war with Venezuela. I mean, they've told this is almost amazing. They told us for years that Donald Trump would get us into wars. Here we are, 2.5 years into his presidency. He has gotten us into wars. He does bellicose talk because he tries to use that as a weapon, a tool in his arsenal. But let's be honest here. Iran exports terrorism. Iran killed American troops in Lebanon through proxy Hezbollah. Iran funds terrorism around the world. Iran helped fund terrorism in Iraq and killed American troops there during the Iran-Iraq war. And during our Iraq war. And media don't want to talk about it because here's the most interesting thing. They have picked sides in Saudi Arabia versus Iran, and they have picked Iran. The American news media have picked an enemy of America to side with against an ally of America. Because let's be honest, Saudi Arabia is not exactly a paradise of freedom, but no place in the Islamic world is. I love rolling out this stat, so I'm gonna keep at it until somebody starts blocking me somewhere on social media to make this point. There are 57 members of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. That's countries. 56 of them are countries. One of them is Palestine, which is bogus, but that's the reality. Those 56 plus one, not one of them embrace the concept of Western freedom. Not one. The best is probably Bahrain, and I mean this. We've got a big base there. Bahrain allows Christians to worship openly, which is far better than a lot of the other members of that list. And even then, Bahrain's a monarchy. This is not a Western free nation. Qatar, which gets a lot of news because of some of the stuff it does, and Qatar, you can be arrested as Westerners for some of your behavior, personal life behavior. You can get arrested for that. Some of these nations will lock you up if you're gay. Some of them will execute you if you're gay. And the American press doesn't want to talk about it, because to talk about it is to raise the issue about ideology as opposed to racism. What the media want to pretend is that people who disagree with Muslims are racist. Yet Islam is a religion for all peoples, like all major religions are. You know, I mean, you can be Christian, it can be any race. You can be Jewish and be any race. You can be Hindu. Well, the same with Islam. So how is that racism? Although it's right, it's not. It is simply ideology.
Dan Gaynor joining us, Media Research Center, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM with Kevin Miller in the morning. Fine, Dan, let's get back to how they continue to drum up this impeachment thing. Really not for the good of the country, really not good for their ratings, yet they can't seem to help themselves. They're not acting like adults, the media. They seem to be acting like petulant children.
Well, yeah, we did this right before the Barr hearings, one day when they were talking up the impeachment thing on the various networks. I think there was 363, 363, I think it was, mentions of impeachment in one day on the various networks. Well, that's mentally insane. Even Nancy Pelosi knows that they can't impeach, because to impeach is to offend moderate voters, not just offend and certainly roll out Republicans, get the Republicans to go out and vote, but to offend moderate voters who don't want to deal with it again.
Indeed. Dan Gaynor, the drama continues. A big shout out to the West Coast Gaynors living here in the Treasure Valley. Anything else you'd like to share with us this morning?
Well, I just want to celebrate that one of the quad West Coast Gaynors by marriage is in the Air Force, and he just graduated top of his class. My nephew-in-law, Blake, married to my niece, Laria. So I just want to, as a sort of shout out to all the people out there defending us in the Air Force and all the other armed forces. I'm a proud uncle-in-law, I guess it is.
Well, we certainly appreciate his service and others, and your service, Dan Gaynor. You keep your powder dry.
Oh, you too. Always. We couldn't do it. I really mean this. I hope people listening understand this. Conservative media. I was with somebody the other day on Fox News Insider, and someone said, "Oh, conservative media is so powerful." No, we're not. But we would be massively less powerful if it weren't for our friends in talk radio.
And our friends at the Media Research Center. Dan, you take care, sir.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, Dan Gaynor talking about the need to once again keep conservatism alive. Coming up next at 580-5436. 580-KIDO. It's been a while since we've talked national politics, but this is just too irresistible.
We've talked for a long time about approaching a constitutional crisis. We are now in it.
Do you believe we're in a constitutional crisis? By the way, that's Jerry Nadler. They used to call him Fat Jerry. Now he's Thin Jerry. And being a porker, I can say that. So Fat Jerry yesterday, formerly Fat Jerry, saying that we've reached a constitutional crisis. By the way, anybody feeling a constitutional crisis? They've held the Attorney General in contempt. By the way, not that it's right, but how many times did Congress do the same to Eric Holder and the media downplayed it?
It's an attack on the ability of the American people to know what the executive branch is doing and to have responsible government. It is an attack on the essence of our democracy, and we must oppose this with every fiber of our being.
Right. By the way, again, as we continue to wake up on the right side, do we feel there's a constitutional crisis? We've got a lot to roll in today between now and Glenn Beck. People calling for the end of gun ownership in light of what happened in Colorado. We've got a heated school board meeting in Middleton. I don't know really what's going on in Middleton, but we'll try and find that out. A lot going on. Why don't you join the conversation now? We'll start with a question.
But that's where you start. We have to start by looking at the Mueller report and the underlying evidence for it. It's not where we should finish.
And there we have it. So, do you feel we're in a constitutional crisis with record low unemployment, with the world at peace, with people that love the stock market doing better than ever? Does this feel like a constitutional crisis? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And it didn't take them long to do this, true believers. Gun control advocates are making a new push for tougher gun laws in the wake of the deadly shooting in Colorado. Susie Kaufman, she's with Moms Demand Action in Minnesota. She says they're all heartbroken by the shooting at the STEM school Highlands Ranch, which left 1 dead and 8 injured.
Here in Minnesota, we have the opportunity to pass historic gun legislation in terms of background checks and red flag laws.
Right. Background checks, red flag laws, and across the country, people are honoring the Colorado school shooting hero that put himself before others. In Florida, they're arming teachers. And at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, we already have people saying it's time to stand up to guns. Well, these kids got their weapons illegally. So, in other words, that's why people are criminals or they break the law. It wasn't like they went to the gun store, said, hey, give me a bunch of guns. I'm going to harm people. People and criminals will continue to get firearms. The big question that we have to ask ourselves is we as a society are willing to disarm and defang people that can defend themselves in the hopes that that will limit access to guns to the bad people who hurt us, right? At 580-5436, 580-KIDO, we go down to, again, something that the media is not telling us, and this is a young man, the 18-year-old Kendrick Castillo, days away from his graduation, was taken by a bullet when authorities say 2 armed students entered his school near Denver, and Mr. Castillo put himself at risk to try and save others. This is what John Castillo said about his son. By the way, could you imagine making that statement about your child dying a hero?
Kendrick and another boy chased them out of the door and into the hallway and tackled them. He was the one who took the fire first because he was the first one there, as he was tackling them. And that's what I've been told.
My goodness. God bless your son, sir. God bless you. How many people would do the same thing? Unarmed, tackling these hoodlums, saving lives. An American hero. An American hero. Kendrick Castillo. More on that in a minute. KIDO Talk Radio time is 6:27. Traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave. Thank you, Larry. Coming up, we'll talk a little bit about vaping being banned, where you can smoke. Thank you to the city of Boise for doing that. Glad to see that the folks at the city of Boise are on the case. Vaping, bad vaping, bad vaping. Well, we could talk about other things. We'll get to that after the news. But back to the story at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Here you have this hero, Kendrick Castillo, who runs to the shooting, chases them. Amazing. Amazing when this happens. And decides to save lives instead of worrying about his own. And according to published reports, his dad said, don't be a hero. And now we have this opinion piece. Quote, we have 2 dead young heroes. It's time to stand up to guns. From where else? The New York Times, saying it's time to stand up for guns. Politicians fearful of the National Rifle Association have allowed the gun lobby to run amok so that America now has more guns than people. But there is still true heroism out there in the face of gun violence. Students who rush shooters who risk their own lives. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but it didn't take them long to say it's time for the guns to go. And you have people saying we need to stand up to the gun lobby. Is it the gun lobby that is attacking kids in gun-free zones, attacking people in gun-free zones? Is it the NRA, or is it the people that want to prey on innocent, unarmed people? And it comes down to what society we want. Do we want to empower the individual, embolden the individual, protect the individual, or should we just put up a sign and hopefully the criminals won't act criminal and respect gun-free zones? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Maggie.
We've talked for a long time about approaching a constitutional crisis. We are now in it.
It's official. Congressman Nadler says we're in a constitutional crisis, holding the Attorney General in contempt. Joining us now, live directly from Capitol Hill, Fox News Radio's Rachel Sutherland on KIDO Talk Radio. Rachel, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
Is it a good morning for the President and the Attorney General?
Well, that's a good question. The Attorney General yesterday was, he's under a contempt recommendation to the full House. So this isn't going to happen for at least a couple of weeks, a full vote before the House. And even then, probably not a lot will happen except that we'll go to court. And this all happened at the same time that the White House asserted executive privilege over all of the Mueller report. This is obviously setting up a court battle. If a citation for contempt is issued, it'll go to actually the U.S. District Court here in Washington. I believe that's a Trump appointee. And you can imagine that it will just start from there, and the battle will go up, presumably, to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Indeed. And, of course, we've been here before. Congress. This isn't the first time, is it, that Congress has held an Attorney General in contempt?
Oh, no. I mean, Eric Holder was held in contempt during Fast and Furious. There have been others. Remember, ex-IRS official Lois Lerner was held in contempt in 2014. It can be kind of much ado about nothing, but the committee chairman, Jerry Nadler, has thrown around this much-used term, constitutional crisis, and that simply just means that when two branches of the government can't come to an agreement on something, but it has the connotation of like threatening our republic, but a lot of people think that term gets thrown around a bit much. I think that this battle will continue. It's nowhere near over, and this all happened at the same time that the Senate Intelligence Committee, which is controlled by Republicans, really surprised people yesterday by issuing a subpoena for Donald Trump Jr. Looks like they want to talk to him about plans to build a Trump Tower in Moscow that was eventually scrapped. But they may want to talk to him about other things as well, but the committee leaders really aren't commenting on this.
Right. I'm sure the president will give his thoughts on that as well. The president's still talking about, in his thoughts, the attempted coup on his administration. Right.
Last night he was talking about this at a rally in Florida, saying that it's over and that essentially, no collusion. He's saying no obstruction. But this is something that, he may have a point there, and that his poll numbers are higher than they've ever been. And I don't see the president losing a whole ton of support among his base. But Democrats keeping up the fight for sure. The president calling this a hoax and an attempted coup.
How do you think if this plays, if at all, into the 2020 race? I don't think we have enough Democratic candidates yet, Rachel.
Oh, my gosh. I think it's up to, 21, 22 now?
Yeah.
Right now, Tulsi Gabbard is on the Fox News channel. She's the Hawaii representative that's running. And last night, we held a town hall with Amy Klobuchar. So there is a lot of candidates right now. Joe Biden leading the pack by a large margin. However, it is still early, and he hasn't done any debates. Those are the first debates coming up this summer in Miami. So it's interesting this starting so early, this campaign. I guess the last one did, too. President Trump announced in the summer of 2015.
Indeed. Who would have ever thought we would think of the GOP field in 2016 as kind of small and quaint to what we have today?
Oh, wow. I know. I think there's like 16 or 17. And it may not be over yet as far as who's getting in and who's. But after the debates, I think you'll start seeing some starting to drop out just due to lack of funds or no chance of really getting ahead.
Well, maybe you'll get a chance to go back on the trail.
Oh, yeah. I was out with Joe Biden in Pittsburgh last week, and that was exciting. It had a familiar feel to it. being out on the campaigns. And, it'll be a busy 18 months or so.
Rachel, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Rachel Sutherland joining us exclusively here on KIDO Talk Radio. When you hear Fox News on the radio, you're listening to KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM.
We now know he lost over $1 billion in a decade in the 80s and 90s. He was broke. No bank would loan him a penny. He was broke. And if it weren't for him being president, he'd be in prison with Michael Cohen today as individual one.
That's Representative Steve Cohen of Tennessee. You may think, who's Steve Cohen? He was the guy last week that had the bucket of chicken, called him Chicken Trump. Didn't Donald Trump write another book called The Art of the Comeback? He made his billions back, and now he's the president. I don't know. It's funny. I think sometimes Trump the president loves playing devil's advocate. He just says something to see just how much the opposition will lose it.
Well, there is no basis in law or in fact for the Stonewaller in chief to exert executive privilege.
Well, there we have it. You're welcome to comment on that. Do you feel like we're in a constitutional crisis? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next, Mexican officials find 289 migrants in a tractor-trailer rig. And get this, the children had measles and other illnesses. We'll examine this concerning the refugee crisis and if it's related to the measles outbreak that continues to make the headlines and cause states to mandate that everybody get the vaccine, even if people in Idaho and Oregon don't want their kids vaccinated because of religious or other objections. Is it, why are these things happening all of a sudden? Could it be related to this story where you have people that are sick coming into this country? Some children were also found to have had chicken pox. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Get your thoughts at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. But this is a crazy story out of Middleton. It's leading right now from our news partners, Channel 7. And apparently there was yelling, screaming, and name-calling. Now, don't we know that name-calling can trigger things? Don't we know that it's just bad? So maybe you were at this meeting last night, or maybe you live in Middleton. Middleton, one of the more stable communities, but you think about in the past year, you've had the controversy with the teachers. You've got the school board meeting, people yelling. You've got the controversy with the mayor who, apologized. They voted for no confidence. The charges against him were dropped. What's in the water in Middleton? By the way, we're not bashing Middleton. I like that Middleton. They got a nice little burger place there, among other things. Let's take a listen.
Last night was the first night I've gone to bed in my life in Middleton and anywhere where I felt uncomfortable. I felt for my wife's security.
Tempers boiled over at Monday night's Middleton School Board meeting.
Now, you talk about passion. Forget football. Forget MMA. Let's just go to the school board meeting in Middleton. And by the way, when you talk to attorneys, when they're not charging you, family law is the most controversial. It's the most emotional. You have people saying, I'd rather be a defense attorney and deal with the criminals than family law. You look at politics at the local level, there's nothing like school board politics.
We want to hear her talk.
Community members upset at the board. So upset that when the meeting adjourned, board members say things got a little physical.
As the meeting ended, there was yelling, screaming, name-calling. Another board member and myself stood up. We waited. I told her to follow me. At that time, the officer came up and started to lead her out. It became very personal. I witnessed physical contact.
Usually they have police officers at these meetings. And by the way, again, this is a story from Channel 7 on KIDO Talk Radio, where you had people last night at the Middleton School Board meeting yelling, screaming, name-calling. Apparently there's an assault investigation underway during this contentious meeting.
Board member Kirk Adams says the physical contact was directed toward another board member, Alicia McConkey. She tells KTVB, quote, I ended up being escorted by a police officer as people yelled at me and threatened my kids, my life, etc. She goes on to say, quote, "I have never been so scared. I didn't know people could be so mean," end quote. Idaho State Police confirmed troopers are actively investigating assault allegations from the meeting. So how did it get to this?
Your voice doesn't matter anymore. We the people matter.
We were in executive session.
In that session, Adams says the board made a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation to not renew high school principal Benjamin Merrill's contract. But then...
And I'd ask for discussion.
We can have discussion.
You know, if you've ever wanted to go to any of these meetings, never ask for discussion. You're just opening up the can of you-know-what. When you open up discussion in public meetings, well, that's all right. Then it just breaks down. Case in point.
It's important enough that I wrote this down. It's clear that the scope of the investigation was not what we promised the public it would be.
Partway through board member Marianne Blackwell's statement, this happened.
Point of order. Point of order.
The board says Blackwell was cut off because she was voicing a personal opinion, not official business.
And we asked that the statement not be made there, as it wasn't a board-authorized statement.
The whole night left parents like Angela Weber.
I think people went overboard. Yes.
All right, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So you have the principal that's getting the boot. The community doesn't want him to get the boot. So they're screaming and yelling. Is this any way for adults in Middleton or in Idaho or in the Treasure Valley or in America to behave? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Well, they are the Vikings. Maybe that's how the Vikings act. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. If this happened to your school board, at your school board meeting. And we had in Meridian a couple years ago, very contentious school board meetings, but nothing like this. 580-5436. You're listening to Kevin Miller on your home for Hannity, KIDO Talk Radio.
Frustrated.
We feel like we are not being told what's happening. I think that everybody is just so frustrated. It's just like a boiling pot and the lid's come off.
And there we have it, the boiling pot that is Middleton. Maybe you know about the school board meeting. Maybe you know the school board members screaming and yelling. Is this any way for adults to be a good role model to the kids that look up to them that way? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Liberty Linda joins us now. Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Good morning, Kevin. Kevin, you're right. When are they going to get it? Kendrick will be honored in heaven. I know that. And we find out later that many of these kids that have done these shootings have been in government drug programs. Kevin, do you think possibly they could have actually been brainwashed to actually do these shootings, to actually take our guns away from us, we the citizens? I mean, it's a question because I've heard this many times that later I'll hear they were in actual programs of the government, and then they go out and do these shootings. Could this be set up to take our guns away from us, to give others power in this world? That's a question I always ask myself.
Boy, that's a deep thought right there.
Well, a lot of people haven't heard that these kids that do the shootings have been in drug programs that the government is over. And so it's a question I've had in my mind. It's just, there's too many of them, and they're going on all the time. And, we think, okay, we're over this is not going to happen again, and then we have another one. So anyway, that's a question I have. And then I was thinking, you could actually run for president. I'm not kidding about this. You can actually run for president or vice president. You could be president. I would vote for you, Kevin, because you know what this nation needs, and you would fight for it. So
now, hold on, Liberty Linda.
Yes.
I thought I was supposed to be the vice president to Tommy Ahlquist.
Well, Tommy Ahlquist was always the one to go out and want that type of position. But, you could be president, if he doesn't want to do it, if he's too much into business. I think you would be an excellent president. You know what this nation needs, and you're a fighter, like our president is today. I'm not kidding about this. I think you would be an excellent president. If you'd rather just be the vice president, and report from the White House, you have to still be on the radio every morning because all of us out here would go bonkers without you. So, I am not kidding about this. I really think you would make a wonderful president or vice president.
Well, thank you, Liberty Linda. That's a very wonderful compliment. But, I really feel that to make a difference, you have to do it at the local level. And that's the tough thing about our friends in Congress is they're so far away from us, when in reality, it's not, this is the big time. It's not about Washington, D.C. It's not about anything. You know what the big time is Caldwell or CUNA or Mountain Home. And it takes, many years in your life to actually figure that out. So that's, I think, where we can make our biggest changes right here in the Treasure Valley.
Well, and you're fighting so that hemp won't come in because it's not so much hemp as it is marijuana. And because that comes in right after, which, we've had the experience of seeing that in different states. And then the state will turn completely liberal after that. And so we are concerned about our country, what's happening in it. We love our country. We love what our founding fathers gave us. Like you said, God bless America. We love our Constitution because it gives us, we the people, rights. And that's what our founding fathers wanted to give us, the right to control our own country. And we love that. And right now they're trying to take it away from us.
Well, they're trying to take the state away. Liberty Linda, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, for all you do. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
580-5436. Traffic and weather together. KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Dave. And I'm Kevin Miller. Coming up next, we take a look at the Supreme Court and Clarence Thomas, his role in defining the next generation of conservatism. Also, the city of Boise says vaping is just as bad for you as smoking. And, of course, that if you're in a public park, you're not allowed to vape anymore. So first it was the vilification of the smokers. Now it's the vapors. Do you think that the city council in Boise has anything better to do than to go after the vapes? Or is it time we take a look at vaping as a serious health threat? A lot going on today. Please stay with us.